In this world, there's a pervasive idea that we must strive for perfection, as if it's the pinnacle of success, happiness, or even our worth. We are constantly bombarded with images and expectations of flawless beauty, pristine achievements, and lives without a single crack in the surface. But the truth is, perfection is a myth. A dangerous and hollow pursuit that, if we allow it to dominate our thinking, will leave us feeling isolated, frustrated, and ultimately disconnected from the richness of human experience. The reality is that imperfections are not inadequacies. In fact, they are the very essence of what connects us all. They are the marks that show we are alive, evolving, and part of a larger shared story. The problem with the idea of perfection is that it feeds into a false narrative. That our worth is tied to our ability to avoid mistakes, to live without blemish. But this is a lie. Imperfections are not flaws. They are indicators of growth, resilience, and most importantly, humanity. Life, in its truest form, is a messy, beautiful, unpredictable journey. To seek perfection is to seek something that doesn't exist. And in doing so, we overlook the inherent beauty in imperfection. Every time we fall short, every time we stumble, it is a reminder that we are not robots, devoid of flaws or weaknesses. We are human, and it's in our imperfections that we find our deepest connection to others. Imagine for a moment a perfect world where everything operates flawlessly, where everyone is exactly as they should be. It sounds appealing, doesn't it? But there's no depth in perfection, no character in a flawless surface. It's the cracks, the flaws, the messy parts of life that give it color, texture, and meaning. When we embrace our imperfections, we open the door to vulnerability. And vulnerability, as uncomfortable as it may feel, is where the most authentic connections are born. When we see someone struggling, when we witness someone overcome adversity, we don't admire them for their perfection. We admire them for their courage, for their ability to persevere despite the challenges they face. We relate to their struggle because it mirrors our own. Their imperfections, in fact, remind us of our shared humanity. They tell us that we are not alone, that we are part of something larger than ourselves. The cracks are where the light gets in, Leonard Cohen once said, and how true that is. It's in our imperfections that the light of understanding, empathy, and connection can shine through. One of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves and others is the permission to be imperfect, to stop pretending that we have it all together, to let go of the unrealistic expectation that we must be flawless to be worthy of love, respect, or success. The truth is that we all have our own struggles, our own insecurities, and our own scars. And it's these very things that make us human. It's these imperfections that build empathy, that foster deep connections with others. When we can look at another person's flaws and see them not as something to be fixed or hidden, but as part of their story, we open ourselves to the possibility of genuine relationships. We must also learn to embrace our own imperfections. Too often, we are our harshest critics, punishing ourselves for every mistake, every failure. We believe that if we could just be better, do better, we'd finally feel worthy. But the truth is, striving for perfection only leads to more frustration and disappointment. Perfection is an illusion, a moving target that can never be reached. In reality, it's in our imperfections that we find our authenticity, our uniqueness, and our strength. It's the very things we try to hide that often make us stand out, that make us memorable, and that allow us to contribute something of value to the world. When we accept our imperfections, we stop chasing an unattainable ideal and begin to focus on growth, learning, and self-compassion. We begin to see failure not as something to fear, but as a necessary step in the process of becoming who we are meant to be. Failure, in its truest sense, is not an end, but a beginning. It is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to transform. And it's through our mistakes, our flaws, and our struggles that we discover the resilience and strength we never knew we had. But this isn't something we are taught in our culture. We are conditioned to believe that perfection is the standard, that any deviation from this ideal is a failure. We see it in social media, where only the most polished, curated versions of people's lives are shared. We see it in the workplace, where the pressure to succeed at all costs often leaves little room for mistakes or vulnerability. We see it in ourselves as we compare our behind the scenes to other people's highlight reels. But the truth is, behind every successful success story is a journey filled with setbacks, doubts, and imperfections. There's no such thing as a flawless path. It's the imperfect journey that gives us the wisdom, the experience, and the resilience to navigate life with purpose and strength. The beauty of imperfections is that they remind us that we are all in this together. None of us are exempt from the trials and tribulations of life. We all have our struggles, our weaknesses, our scars. But these imperfections are not signs of failure. They are proof of our humanity, of our ability to endure, and of our capacity for growth. And they remind us that we don't have to be perfect to be worthy, that we don't have to have it all together to make a difference, and that we don't have to be flawless to be loved. In fact, it's often through our imperfections that we are able to connect with others in the most meaningful ways. It's when we are open and vulnerable, when we allow ourselves to be imperfect, that we create space for others to do the same. We begin to realize that we are not alone in our struggles, that we all share in the messiness of life, and it's through this shared experience that we find strength, connection, and hope. So the next time you feel the pressure to be perfect, to hide your flaws, to pretend that everything is okay, remember this: your imperfections are not your inadequacies. They are the very things that make you human, that make you relatable, and that make you worthy of love, connection, and success. Embrace them, celebrate them, and know that in doing so, you are not alone. We are all in this together, imperfections and all. We live in a world that is obsessed with perfection, where it seems that every corner of society demands flawless execution, immaculate appearances, and a picture-perfect life. From the images we see on social media to the expectations placed upon us in our careers and personal lives, there is an unspoken pressure to meet a standard that, quite frankly, doesn't exist. We compare ourselves to an ideal that is unattainable, and in doing so, we become our own harshest critics, constantly feeling that we fall short of what is expected of us. But here's the truth we often overlook: our imperfections are not flaws. They are the very things that make us human. They are the common thread that binds us all together. We often hear that we should strive to be perfect, to be the best version of ourselves, to never falter, and to avoid weakness at all costs. This pursuit of perfection, however, is a double-edged sword. While striving for excellence is important, the relentless chase for flawlessness can leave us feeling alienated from others, and worse still, disconnected from ourselves. What if we stopped thinking of our imperfections as weaknesses, and instead saw them as the very things that make us relatable? What if we accepted that it is through our struggles, our flaws, and our vulnerabilities that we find our true strength? Every single person you meet, every person you admire, has their own set of imperfections. None of us are exempt from the difficulties of life. We all have scars, some visible, some hidden, but all of them tell a story. They are proof of our resilience, proof that we have been through something challenging and have come out on the other side stronger. Our imperfections are not something to be ashamed of. They are something to embrace. They remind us that we are not alone in our struggles, and it is in this shared experience of imperfection that we can connect on a deeper level. Think about the people you admire the most in your life. Are they perfect? Do they have everything figured out? No. What you admire about them is likely not their perfection, but their ability to face adversity, to overcome their imperfections, and to keep moving forward. It is their courage in the face of challenges, their willingness to be vulnerable, and their determination to persevere despite their flaws that make them so relatable, so human. It is these imperfections that give them depth and character. And this is true for all of us. When we embrace our own imperfections, we allow others to do the same. We create a space for empathy, for understanding, and for genuine connection. In a world that often values perfection above all else, it's easy to feel isolated when we don't measure up to the expectations set before us. We look around and see people who seem to have it all together, who are thriving in their careers, in their relationships, in their personal lives. And we think, why can't I be like that? Why am I struggling when everyone else seems to be succeeding? But the truth is, the people you admire most are not perfect. They are just as flawed, just as human as you are. And it is through their flaws that they have become who they are. The key is not to compare yourself to them, but to recognize that you too have your own unique set of strengths, imperfections, and potential. One of the most profound lessons in life is understanding that your imperfections are not a curse, but a gift. They are the parts of you that make you unique, that make you stand out, that make you relatable. The most powerful people are not those who hide their flaws, but those who are able to stand in their imperfections and still shine. It's easy to believe that our imperfections make us less worthy, less capable, less deserving of love and success. But that's a lie. Our imperfections are the very things that make us worthy, capable, and deserving. They remind us that we are human, that we are capable of growth, and that we are not meant to be perfect, but rather to strive for progress. There's a saying that goes, the cracks are where the light gets in. It is through our imperfections that we become more open, more vulnerable, more connected to the world around us. It's through our flaws that we gain wisdom, understanding, and the capacity to relate to others in a meaningful way. If everything in life were perfect, we would never have the chance to experience the depth of emotion, the beauty of struggle, or the richness of growth. It's the imperfections in our journey that shape us, that teach us the most valuable lessons, and that bring us closer to our true selves. In fact, it is through embracing our imperfections that we can truly begin to heal and grow. When we stop fighting against our flaws, when we stop pretending that we are something we are not, we free ourselves to become the best version of ourselves, not through perfection, but through acceptance and growth. Life is not about achieving some idealized version of ourselves. It is about learning to live fully, to embrace our imperfections, and to use them as stepping stones towards something greater. The people who inspire us most are not those who have everything figured out, but those who have faced adversity, who have overcome their own challenges, and who continue to move forward, flaws and all. They are not perfect, but they are real. They are human. And it is this authenticity, this willingness to be imperfect, that makes them so powerful. So let us stop trying to be perfect. Let us stop hiding behind our flaws, pretending that they don't exist. Let us embrace our imperfections, not as weaknesses, but as powerful reminders of our shared humanity. Our imperfections are not something to be ashamed of. They are something to be celebrated. They are the marks of a life well lived, a journey filled with challenges, growth, and resilience. In the end, perfection is not the goal. The goal is to embrace the journey, to learn from our mistakes, to grow from our struggles, and to connect with others in a real, authentic way. When we accept our imperfections, we not only accept ourselves, but also the people around us. We realize that we are not alone in our struggles, that we are all walking this imperfect path together. And it is in this shared experience that we find our strength, our purpose, and our true connection to one another. So remember, your imperfections are not your inadequacies. They are the very things that make you who you are. They are the cracks where the light gets in. Embrace them, celebrate them, and know that in doing so, you are part of something much greater than yourself, something that connects us all in this beautiful, imperfect journey of life.